It's been said that every quilt tells a story, and it's so true. But I also believe every quilter has a story to tell. I wanted to hear about the people behind these wonderful quilts and thought you'd enjoy hearing about their lives also. Welcome to A Quilter's Life. Jean Pickering Collins is one of my heroes. Every time I have the opportunity to chat with her, she's been on a new adventure. It astounds me that she accomplishes so much and she makes such beautiful quilts. I don't know how she's gotten it all done. And then here locally, whenever her name comes up, people have such glowing remarks to share about her. If you didn't listen to my first interview with Jean from July 12, 2019, you want to go back and listen to her story. It's hard to believe that on July 12th of 2019, I released my first 3 episodes of A Quilter's Life. I purposely chose Jean to do this second interview to celebrate 5 years of recording and sharing stories of quilters. Life happens, and I ended up in the hospital overnight with bad headaches and double vision. I'm still dealing with these symptoms, but as the doctors help me figure out what's going on, I'm still able to share these stories with you, even though I'm having a few delays. When I arrived at Jean's for this interview, it was a beautiful day, so we left the doors open. While listening, you'll figure out why that became a problem. You've also probably noticed that the first interview, her name was Jean Pickering. And in this interview, we've added Collins. Again, this adventurous lady will explain all of that. Jean, thanks for taking time to visit with me again. I've been so looking forward to this and getting an update from you. I wanted to mention that I just look up to you so much.
Thank you.
Since I interviewed you 5 years ago, I wanted to interview you again for this episode because this one is going to be my 5-year anniversary episode. And actually, I interviewed you a year before I put it out. So we talked 6 years ago. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And it sounds like a lot has happened since we talked the last time. Now, one phone call I had with you, you had just found something your mother had worked on.
It was the double wedding ring. And so I had put together some pieces and finished putting that together into a small quilt. I didn't go into a large quilt with that. But that was very reminiscent of Mother's work. In fact, I have a quilt on my bed now that my mom made. She took up quilting after I did. And she was always into pinks and peaches and things like that. That was not my color palette.
When you found those quilt pieces that you finished up, did you remember those fabrics or you just knew your mom?
Yeah. Mother was always one, she never knew the difference between polyester and cotton. So that's how I can always tell it's something of Mother's because she mixed the polyester in with the cotton.
And she had on that double wedding ring also, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. And last time we talked, you had a camper in Florida.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, do you still have a camper in Florida?
Well, it was interesting. I had a very big change in my life. I had my old boyfriend that I had dated 70 years ago, and he came to Florida, and he invited me to get married and move to California. So I had already sold my camper in Florida and decided that I was no longer able to stay there because my vision was starting to go downhill. So we got married. We were both 89. And last year we celebrated our first wedding anniversary, both our 90th birthdays. And then I lived for a year and a half in California with him. And he passed away this past October. So I'm here.
Oh, well, someone had made a wonderful comment on my website on your episode that we did a long time ago. And so I wanted to share that with you. And I called you thinking you were in West Virginia. And I'm so glad I did not call early in the morning when you answered and said, I got married and I'm in California.
Right. Yeah. It was not too long, but it was wonderful while it lasted.
Yeah.
And now I have 4 more children. I not only have my 4 children from the Pickering marriage, but I have 4 Collins children also.
Oh, nice.
They're very, very good to keep track of me.
Oh, wow.
They have 2 girls, 2 boys. So we're very, very much in touch.
That's wonderful to hear. Now, are they all in California?
Yes. The 2 boys live in Los Angeles. The 2 girls live in San Diego.
So that year and a half you were out there, you really got to know them well, didn't you?
That's right. That's right. Like I think I told you before, you think of your life as a lot of seasons. And my flying was one season. And so this was another season, a very brief season, but a very good season.
Yeah. I actually had that written down that you had mentioned seasons of life, and I was wondering how you were going to tell about what season that was for you.
That was a good season. It was one that we had loved each other for all of our lives because we were baptized the same day in 1933. And we just had always known each other. But we married other people, had our lives separate, and then brought them all together years later and got to enjoy and share. That was good. I made a quilt for him for his birthday and a quilt of valor. He was a naval aviator, so we were both interested in aviation. And when he had come to visit, I had taken him flying in my plane, so he got to fly in little planes. But he flew for the Navy and was career Navy pilot. And he worked on aviation films. His son was a movie producer. So have a lot of things in common.
Wow. Hold on a minute. That bird is really loud.
I didn't realize my birds were singing.
It was a pretty song, but it was getting louder. Well, last time we talked, you were about to head off to Bali.
Yes.
How did that trip go?
That was wonderful. Indonesia was very interesting. I saw Komodo dragons and pink sand beaches and Bali and so many interesting places I've been around the world. Fascinating. I've been literally around the world now. I've been over 60 countries, and all of it since I was 80, because I became widowed the first time at 80. And I said, I'm going to travel now. So I started traveling at 80. So I've done all this, and overseas adventure travel has taken me many, many places, many experiences. In fact, I'm ready to turn 91 in July. I said I'd like to go do the 80s again because I had such a good time in the 80s. So.
Then another time I talked to you, it was when you were in California. You said you had just returned from Portugal.
Yes, Portugal and Spain with my daughter. I was with a girl from California, and then my daughter and I also went on a trip too. So I had 2 trips last year. That was good. Portugal was good. Spain was good. The bullfights. We saw where they trained the bulls. It's a very interesting country to visit.
Huh. It seems like we hear so much more about Spain than Portugal.
Mm-hmm. Well, most of the explorers, they came from Portugal. But they were funded, and then the ships were from Spain. But most of the explorers were from Portugal. Really interesting. You go back to your childhood history lessons.
Yeah.
One of the most intriguing things about Portugal was the sidewalks are all cobblestones because they're very close to the ocean, so they have so much water. They don't want to have drainage ditches, so they have cobblestones, so the water all goes back into the aquifer rather than running off into sewers treatment and back into the ocean. They let it go into the aquifer with the cobblestones.
Wow.
In the process, they build these beautiful designs in their cobblestone sidewalks. So their parks are not only beautiful green spaces and trees, but these very intricate designs in the cobblestones. Very pretty.
That sounds beautiful.
Very artistic. Yeah.
But did it make it hard to walk?
No, they cut them into it's like a brick set on end.
Okay.
So they're very smooth on top, but they're very deep. But it's very interesting.
We could have learned a lot from
They're
other
not
places.
a rounded cobblestone. It's just like a brick on end.
Okay. Wow. Did it make you think of our wonderful brick streets in Marietta?
Yeah, but the brick streets in Marietta, they're turned sideways.
Yeah.
So they have a different surface. But yes, and we have, 13 miles of brick streets in Marietta.
Is it that much?
Mm-hmm.
I knew we had a lot. My kids were shocked when I told them people come to Marietta to see our brick streets. Any other places you've traveled in the last several years?
In fact, I just finished for myself, and in memory of Bill, I finished a trip around the world quilt, and I made one for my travel buddy, Sharon Kropp, who lives in San Diego. So I made a trip around the world quilt for her, and I incorporated fabrics because I collected fabrics from different places that I went. And this one that I made here for Bill has Navy insignia and different things from the Navy in commemoration for that. I started to tell you I made a quilt for his Quilt of Valor, and it has scenes of San Diego, and then I painted his Navy wings on there. So that was good. And then I spelled out the name in signal flags. So it says Collins in signal flags.
Wow.
It's a pretty little quilt.
Yeah. Now, the signal flags, did you paint those on, or did you find fabric that had the different signal flags on it?
No, I just pieced them out of the different colored fabrics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was a lot more work than that.
Yeah. But Collins, Collins. It was neat.
Yeah. Wow.
I have on the back of the chair over there a quilt that I made. It's my college reunion for 50 years. I did a quilt for them in commemoration of our 50 years of friendship. So I had photographs and I printed them onto the fabric. So I have that.
And you said you're coming up on your 70th class reunion?
From college.
From college.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think there's going to be anybody to go back to it, but yep, that's a milestone.
Yeah. Now, when you were in San Diego, did you find quilt shops and quilters out there?
Yes, I did. Rosie's Calico Cupboard was one of my favorite quilt shops. For many years, Rosie has sponsored at it used to be called the Del Mar Fair, but now it's the San Diego Fair. But they always had quilt block contests. And Bill would send me a kit, and you'd make a quilt block and send it in and enter this contest. And I won that for several years. I could shop at Rosie's Calico Cupboard. But that was good. She had a good quilt shop, and I had a sewing room. I told Bill when he asked me to marry him, I said, well, I have to have a cleaning lady and a quilt room. He got a cleaning lady and I had a quilt room. So, and I took my featherweight out there and sewed more quilts.
Now, how about a cook?
No, but we had Meals on Wheels. So that was good.
That took care of that.
Yes.
I remember calling you during COVID, asking you what you were doing because I knew you went out to eat often.
Right.
And I love that you answered me with, they deliver.
That's right. They deliver.
Well, I've come up with a few different questions than when I first started the podcast. So one of my newer questions is, if you had the opportunity to talk to your great-great-great-great-grandchildren, I'm not sure if I put enough greats in there.
I've got great.
But future generations that you don't know, how do you think they would remember you?
Well, I hope they remember me with love. And I hope that I have left enough quilts, baby quilts, pillowcases. I know this generation and the great-grandchildren, they all have pillowcases. I make pillowcases for everybody. So I hope that they'll at least remember that. I hope the quilts last.
Yeah.
Effie and I have always commented, we just hope that our kids never give our quilts to Goodwill, or to yard sales. Because you see, young people of today don't have the value or interest in them, and they put them, oh, that's an old quilt, put it in the yard sale. That breaks your heart.
Yeah.
But you can't control that.
No.
You can't control it. Just hope that the legacy gets passed on to take care of these.
Yeah.
Because I still have some of my grandmother's quilts. In fact, I took one of my grandmother's quilts and made them into teddy bears and pillows so that I could give to everybody, so that they each had a piece of the quilts.
That's a neat way to use them.
Yeah.
What message would you like to share with your future generations?
Oh, you always wish that you could be around, but that's not possible. I treasured my my grandparents and the memories. There was an artist in Marietta, I think his name was Richardson, and he taught at Marietta College. But he would have the same scene painted with ghostly images of times past. And that's how I think, just remember that someone was here before you and touch these places. And remember, take time to think, remember.
Yeah. I know I love the stories that have been given to us about Guthrie's great-grandmother. Yeah. And she's the one that had our house built. And I've been able to share those stories with generations, nieces, nephews, and great-nieces, nephews. One niece had brought her fiancé with her one year, and I was sharing these stories. And I guess I've told the story so often, he's like, "Did you know her?" But she had passed away when Guthrie was just a baby, so obviously I had not known her, but it is fun to share those stories.
My father came to this area in the pottery business with his father. And so I have the cookie jars and tangible things like that I have enough for grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So I hope that they will remember American Bisque. And then Pickering, just pass it on and hope that it sticks.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful that you're doing this, because I think that the families will enjoy and appreciate this in years to come.
That's my hope. And besides, I'm selfish and I love hearing these stories. In the last episode, we talked some about the different work that you did, but I'm not sure we talked about the other crafts or hobbies that you might have had.
Well, I started a sign business to pay for my flying habit and enjoyed that for a good many years. And then I just always have been interested in painting. I no longer do any of that. I did have my grandson do some painting for me, but not in the artistic sense of the word, just utilitarian painting. The last artistic project that I had, my sister had a panel that she wanted to make a quilt. So I told her I'd make the quilt, but my vision has gone so rapidly, and I knew what I wanted to do with it. So I got all my quilt buddies, and there were about 8 of them. So I showed them the block I wanted and how we wanted to lay it out. So they came over, they brought their sewing machines, and we had sewing sessions, and they put this quilt together for my sister. It was a good project, but I couldn't have done it without my friends. The last quilt I just finished and mailed off yesterday. I can't see the cut anymore, but I managed to sew it all together. So that was a good project that the girls just cut strips for me. I think that's my grand finale.
Oh, it's getting tougher, huh?
Yes. But I'm very fortunate. I have talking books for the blind, and they're very helpful. They're out of Parkersburg and Charleston, and I send a list of all the books that I want to read. Chip puts those online for me, and the woman sends me the books. So I've got lots of books. I'm no longer able to read, but I am able to listen.
Yeah. When you were quilting, Did you like each step of the quilting process, or was there a particular step you really enjoyed?
I love the creativity of looking at quilts and deciding, let's see, I want to do it this way, but I want to do it in different colors or different flavor. I called it a flavor. So the designing, putting together, I loved the quilting. I used to have my quilt frames here and quilt while my husband would watch television. It was good. I liked all the stages of quilting.
Yeah.
Most of all, you love the aha finished.
You said you just finished one. What kind of pattern did you use on that one?
It was just 2x4 inch. I had seen it at a quilt shop. Effie and I went down to Florida this winter. I flew down and visited Effie, and we went to a quilt shop, and they had a pre-cut kit, and it was just 2x4 inch and then a 2 inch of white, and it was just all random scrap quilt. And then it wasn't quite big enough, so I had my friends cut some more strips for me. So I finished it up, but it's just 4 inch and a 2 inch block.
Nice.
That's for my last grandson. Everybody else got quilts now, so everybody has quilts, and I've got enough. I've got 13 grandchildren on the ramp, great grandchildren on the ramp, and one in the hangar. And it's a boy.
Oh, congratulations.
So, it will be a boy.
Share a quilting tip.
Don't be afraid to rip it out, unsew it, and put it together instead of thinking, oh, well, this won't matter. Take it out and do it again.
Very good.
Don't give up. You've been tempted, I'm sure.
Yes, I have. Is there anything else you wanted to share today?
Now I think about all of the history of quilting. When the women started and when they were on their wagon trains out west. I've been reading a lot of books about the wagon trains west. And the quilters, that's how they started, just sewing pieces together. Just the scraps, the leftovers, what was worn out and what wasn't worn out, and sewing things together and just making utilitarian blankets. And the Native Americans started making the designs. And the women started competing with their designs. And so they started sharing patterns. And I just think it's fascinating that it all began with these women. I think it's Lincoln, Nebraska has very thorough history of quilting. And of course, you've been to Paducah.
I have not been there yet.
You have not been to the Mecca for quilting. They have a very nice quilt museum in Paducah.
It's on my list of places to go.
Yes. And of course, I've always wanted to go to the Missouri Quilt Company because this woman built the whole town around quilting and brought in everybody and made it a town again. It was just going downhill until she started the Missouri Quilt Company, which now buses go there.
Yeah. That would be fun to go see what Jenny Doan has done.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned before that quilting began its revival during 1976 with the bicentennial year.
Yeah.
So that was 76. And that's when I flew the powder puff derby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was thinking that's coming up on the 50th anniversary of that.
It has been amazing too. I don't know whether we would call it a revival because it was already
Right.
out, but COVID really brought a lot out. People started making masks, bought machines, made masks, and then picked up quilting. And there's a lot of leaders now teaching classes even that just learned during COVID how to quilt.
That's good.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
Because it's good to learn how to sew. I'm just always so sorry that they've taken home arts out of the curriculum at schools.
Yeah. It just amazes me how much it's picked up.
That's good.
A couple years ago, I looked up and quilting was approximately a $50 billion industry. And I looked it up a few weeks ago, and it's over $300 billion now. I think it's because so many long arms are being sold. Those things are expensive.
Right. Yes.
But I just tease with that. But it just amazes me how much quilting has grown in the last few years.
And it amazes me how they can keep coming up with more delightful fabric that you just want to design something and create something out of this fabric. This is what I always bring home for my trips. This one's from France. I like tablecloths. This was from Paris.
Oh, wow.
And the one on the back porch is from Portugal. You know, I like the fabrics.
Yeah.
It's a good souvenir.
So you bought a tablecloth. You didn't buy yardage and make your tablecloth, right?
Buy the tablecloth.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for visiting with me again. I so look forward to chatting with you.
Thank you very much, Paula. I enjoy it, and I enjoy what you're doing, and keep doing it.
Thank you. Bye now.
So long until next time.
Thank you. You can find more stories on aquilterslife.com or subscribe on your favorite podcast player so each episode will be downloaded automatically. Also, I want to hear about you and your wonderful quilts. Please contact me, Paula Chamberlain, through the website to set up an interview. And as always, thanks for listening.